So finally we're gathered here, and also I'm in a place where I'm not going to get thrown out, which is awesome. So the brief to me was how to get banned from a creative festival, the biggest creative festival in the advertising industry. And yeah, you know, I'm really happy to get the freedom of a narrow brief. So I'm going to go through step by step in detail how you all can get banned from Cannes Lion. There's a lot of measures that need to be taken, you know, around security and how to get through metal detectors, and I will go through it all. So that you finally can end up here, which is a great experience. For many years, I really wanted to win Gold Lions, and that's pretty hard. It's a lot of hard work to get to even like nominated, right, in award shows. And interestingly enough, it's actually even harder to return the lion. Interesting, right? Because it's really hard to get it, but returning it is super hard. But just for making sure that everybody is on the same page, I'm just going to show you a quick a little wrap-up video of all the things that we did in the Cannes Lions week this year to basically disrupt an event that certainly has its benefits and is having, you know, offering a few really good things, but also is a blocker for climate action, we believe. I just want to return a lion that I got in 2007. I'm Gustav, I'm a Greenpeace activist, and I'm at the Cannes Lions Advertising Festival. I'm here to give them a little bit of a surprise. I would like to return it, and I'm looking forward to pick it up again when you support a fossil ad ban.
Hi, I'm Medina, and I'm here to denounce the complicity of the creative industry in the climate crisis. They are enabling the fossil fuel company to advertise their climate-wrecking products, to greenwash themselves and to block climate action.
So, Karin, where are we going? To a beach party!
Woo!
Activists have climbed the building with a fire truck, and there's actually 2 dogs constructing the meme of "This is fine" in a burning room.
This is so cool, I'm so excited.
The fossil fuel industry is the main responsible for the climate crisis now, and these companies here are promoting them. This has to stop.
If you want to support us, you can go and sign our European Citizen Initiative.
Sign the petition. You can find it on the Greenpeace site.
Join the movement by signing the Ban Fossil Ads European Citizens Initiative.
Yeah. All right, so okay, that was the overall wrap-up video, a little bit about the activities we did, and now more specifically, how do you get on stage to return your lion? So first of all, you need to find the lion that you got in 2007. It's not like I had it at home. So I had to go to an agency that I sold many years ago and knock on their door and say, "Hi, we haven't met for a while. How are you? All good? Nice. I was just wondering, do you have all the awards that we won a decade ago somewhere?" And they were kind enough to go into the server hall or whatever it is, or where they keep all the paper for the copy machine. And there it was a drawer with actually all the old awards that I won together with Mikael and Dennis. Where are you? Yeah, Dennis, you were also. And there are a few people here that was, winning the awards, even though I took most credit for it. So I got my lion. I might have said that I just wanted to borrow it, but they haven't asked for it because I can't really return it, I think, because it's still in Cannes somewhere. And then you need to bring this lion to Cannes. And then you also have to think of that in advance, that when you return it and you get a lot of media attention, the only thing they will ask you is, so how did you get your can? Yeah, so don't fly there. I didn't. I co-shared a Tesla that I borrowed from an Extinction Rebellion activist. So that was a good story. And it's a true story. So we actually drove down to Cannes, 4 activists, and then when you get to the Palais, you have to find a way to get in. And one way to get in is if you have a fire truck, like we have, then you can just use the ladder and go through over the roof into the Palais, because as you can see, there's a lot of security. It might not look as so secure, but it's actually much more secure than you might think. It's a lot of security. They even have dogs that can sniff bombs. We don't have bombs, but they're a little bit scary with dogs and everything. And they have metal detectors. So it might be a good idea to go with a fire truck. The problem is that it's really visible. But it might be the only way you can get in if you're dressed like a dog. But another way of getting in is to buy a ticket. That's much easier. So we did that. So we bought a ticket, but it's super expensive. And we only take money from donors, normal people. We don't take money, Greenpeace don't take money from corporations, we don't take money from the state. So it actually hurts a lot to pay for these super expensive tickets. So we only bought 2, one for me and one for a photographer. But that meant that I had to do a lot of the scouting and research on how to get on stage myself. That is usually done by professionals at Greenpeace that only works with getting through gates and stuff. We call them action coordinators. And they're really good at that. So I had to do that. I'm not so skilled on that, so that was a little bit nervousness and tense that I had to make my own decisions on how to get on stage. The problem is that it's not actually so easy to get on stage because they have guards on all stairs that are standing monitoring like that. And it's not even easy to get in with a lion because when you go through security to Calais, they have metal detectors and they search your bag. And when I got in, the security took up my lion and was very confused. Why do you bring a lion? And at that point, I realized that this could actually make me be thrown out already. So I told him, oh, sorry, I won that yesterday. And I have partying all night and still haven't been back to the hotel. I can go back and leave it if you like. It was the first night, right? So there hadn't been an award for 3 years. But I just realized that usually they just take in, security people from like a company that is not really interested in advertising. So I just figured that he probably wouldn't, know that it wasn't a gala in 3 years. And he didn't. So he was like, yeah, but I probably need to call my boss. So they called a few more security people. And while discussing that, I used that as a distraction to get to the banner through, because that's something also that if they find the banner, they might take you. So that's good for you to think of. And then you hide the banner somewhere, so you have it on stage. Anyone see the banner? Yeah, you see it. There you see the strings. And as you saw in the film, when you walk out, you do like that, right? And it's important that you don't do like that and then it's upside down, So it's really important that you fold them and then you have a little string that you just drag out that end. But if you want to do it, I'm going to help you. So just text me and I'll help you to fold it because it's a special thing that you learn at Greenpeace. I didn't even fold it myself. It was an action coordinator who did it for me. So then you get into here, and then the problem is that they're going to place you, if you just have a ticket, they're going to place you around here. And the only way you can get up on stage is if you sit in the front rows. Now, I will, as you see, share all my secrets with you, but the only thing I will not share is how I got to the front row, because it's really awkward to tell you how terrible lies I had to say. But you have to do it for the planet, right? So in some kind of way, I managed to get to the front row. And the only one who sits at the front row are journalists and winners. So when I'm sitting there, a journalist to my right is saying, "Oh, so you're a winner." And the thing is, when you do actions, you should always you should not lie if you don't have to. Because the more you lie, the more you have to have in your head to make your cover story work. So I just figured that it's better to be honest here, because it's just a journalist. So I said, "No, actually, I'm a former winner. I won a few years back, but these days I'm working for an environmental NGO." And she's like, "Oh, I think you should go on stage anyway." And this was a really cool opportunity, because all of a sudden I felt like I had a friend that could help me to make the most difficult decision, which is, when am I going on stage? Like in the very beginning or in the middle, you know? So I just asked her, "Well, actually, just because you said it, I think I will. When do you think I should go to make the most impact?" And she's like, started laughing, and she's like, "I don't know." "Okay, I think I will go in the beginning." "Yeah, okay, that's what I'll do." And then the show starts, and then I take off my shirt that has hidden the t-shirt with the message, and I bring up the gourd and I'm like, "Hi," and then I go on stage. And I've never seen her again. So then you go on stage, you return the lion. You might need a hidden microphone so you can, get a good sound to the camera, and then you speak loud because you're going to speak into his microphone, right? Because you don't have your own, and it's important to get the message through to the audience. And then, even though you might be like me, just a random bloke from Borås, you might actually win over Kylie Minogue in Impact in Cannes. Thank you. Thank you. Next time I'm going to win over Naomi Campbell too. So that was like a few of the celebrities that were in Cannes. Paris Hilton also. Oh, she always wins, right? Damn. So you might wonder, but Gustav, why should we go on stage like you did? Because we're creative people. We don't want to be copycats. Why would we copy your thing? We want to do a unique thing because we're creatives. And I understand that, but hey, you just do a little tweak and it will be a unique creation, because I stole this idea. My work at Greenpeace is, to a large extent, to come up with concepts that would amplify our theory of change. So basically, my work is to come up with creative interventions, creative ways to do exactly these kind of things. Are we going to bring a fire truck? Yeah, that makes sense, because we are doing This Is Fine. The dog is in a burning room, so therefore we should go in with a fire truck. Those kind of decisions is what I work with. And in this particular case, with the Returning the Lion, I was inspired to what this is something that inspires me a lot in my work, and that is other protest movements. So the protest movement against the Vietnam War in the 60s, they had this thing that Vietnam veterans, like this brave person here, they took their medals and they threw their Purple Hearts at the White House because they didn't want to have those medals. That was the medals that they weren't proud of anymore. Those medals made them feel like murderers and criminals, not as heroes. And this symbolic ritual that they did was something that inspired me. I mean, I've not been in a war, but I can certainly give back a token of appreciation that I don't feel is worth what it was supposed to be worth for me. So that's what's inspired me. So that is the idea, and then you make the idea in a new context, and it feels truly innovative, right? So that is how creativity usually works. So you can probably just tweak it a little bit. But why? Why should you even bother? So that's what I'm going to explain now. So the world is on a fast track to climate disaster, according to the UN, and that is true because it's based on science. So we're in a pretty bad place. And it's getting worse. There's drought all over Europe. There are bushfires everywhere. I probably don't need to describe the problems we're having because you hear that all the time. But still, we don't do much. So why don't we act? Well, one way of looking at it is because we're trapped in a system that is upheld by toxic narratives with false solutions, that is maintaining the status quo through advertising and PR. And we have a structural inequality where people that could make this change happen don't have the power, but people that are benefiting from the status quo are in power. And we have a collusion with power, corruption, sponsorships, norms, and laws. If Cementa is not allowed anymore in a democratic fashion to do cement in Gotland, the politicians can change the founding law of Sweden to make them continue. That is corruption. It's collusion with power, and the reason why they can do that is because they're working way too close to lobbyists and people in power, and they have found ways to manipulate democracy. And this is a system that is upholding, just like upholding an oil rig, which is causing a climate crisis, social injustice and wars, biodiversity loss, and so much tragedy. And it's destroying the future. The present, the future. So the advertising industry that I've been a part of, and to a certain extent is a part of still, is a part of upholding the system. And you can see it, this is a screenshot from yesterday. So you can have 2,000 scientists and employees in the scientific world saying, what is it that you don't understand? And this will be framed by advertising, trying to persuade you to take another unnecessary combustion engine fueled plane somewhere. I took a screenshot on the cell phone. Then I didn't have Scandinavian Airlines. Then I instead have Moderaterna's promise that they will lower the cost of fossil fuels with at least 5 kronor. And this is the advertising surrounding the piece saying that, what is it that you don't understand? And I think the answer is here. Everybody understands it. They're just part of a corrupt system. This is something that IPCC now also understands and is also pointing out. For the first time ever, the last report, the advertising industry was actually mentioned. Corporate advertising and brand building strategies may also attempt to deflect corporate responsibility to individuals or aim to appropriate climate care sentiments in their own brand building. What they're basically saying here is the advertisers are shifting focus to individual consumption. So how did you come to Cannes? And they have internalized that into journalism, into everything. So it's not like when people ask for, workers' rights, union. It's not like they ask themselves, so exactly what are you working with? It's not like which machine. If you were like trying to, in a union, like 100 years ago, get safety for your friends in union, so you wouldn't be killed by a machine in the factory. It was not like the journalists constantly asked, but which particular machine are you working with? And that is what's happening now. They're focusing and they single out people. And we are internalizing that. So every time I talk about these things, the response I get from people like you, people, my friends, my family, they always start to talk about how much they're flying or not, if they're vegetarian or not. But we never have solved things in society like that. We've always been solving it as a community. But with the help of advertising, we have now singled out these issues to be an individual consumption question, which is never going to change anything. So then you might ask, but does really advertising make such difference? Isn't advertising about, there is a need and then someone is fulfilling that need? So for example, I need to travel to my friend in New York, and then advertising is about fulfilling my need, and then it can be fulfilled by Scandinavian Airlines or Norwegian or something like that. Isn't that what advertising is about? No. Advertising is also about changing culture. Advertising is also changing lifestyle. Advertising is also about expanding a market for everyone. And an example of that is tobacco. So this is a graph that shows on average how many cigarettes were sold to adults in Sweden and in the US from 1900, or 120 years ago, when cigarettes became a thing. And as you can see, in the beginning of that century, there wasn't much cigarettes sold at all. And in Sweden, it started in the 1920s to even be measured. But it started to increase. It started to become a thing. But around here, we see that it flattened out. And in 1920s, an advertising agency at the time came up with an idea. What if we could get women to smoke? That would double the market. Because at that point, no woman would smoke, because that was a male thing. It was considered being a terrible thing for a woman to smoke. So this advertising agency came up with this idea that I'm pretty sure you've seen in recent time, and that is, what about using women's liberation and feminism to our advantage? Femwashing was invented in 1920. So they hired suffragettes, influencers at the time, to smoke in women's liberation marches, so that the cigarette would be a symbol of women's liberation. It was called the torch of freedom. And in the advertising from Lucky Strike, it says, "Women are free, an ancient prejudice have been removed." And you see the chains of the women being broken if you just buy Lucky Strike. And that, as you can see, skyrocket the sales of cigarettes in the US. Whereas in Sweden, where this strategy was not implemented, we don't see any change until later. Later in the game, they needed to increase even more. And then we had, I can talk forever about this, but in summary, there were changes in society where they felt a need for men to reinvent themselves in a way, and they looked nostalgic back in the time when men had a more, another place in society. And that was shown in this very famous advertising campaign. It's called the Marlboro Man, which is one of the most successful campaigns that has been invented. And once again, the decline of sales of cigarettes started to go up again. In the 1970s, or 60s maybe it was, this cost of people smoking was so big that politicians had to act. Taking care of people dying in lung cancer at a young age, it costs society so much money. Except the tragedy, but it's all about money in the end, I think. So politicians realized we need to reduce the consumption of cigarettes, because it's on the levels now that on average people are smoking 10 cigarettes a day. On average. Can you imagine how much cigarettes people were smoking at that time? And in Sweden, we were slowly going up again, also in consumption. So the first tobacco advertising ban, the Public Health Cigarette Smoking Act, came in the 60s by President Nixon. And after that, there have been ban after ban and restrictions. And today, you're literally not allowed to do anything. Marlboro can't even sell clothes these days. They're such rigid, and the interventions against the cigarette companies are so severe. They're really, really isolated them. They can't sell anything. And as you can see, sales are going down. In Sweden, we did it all in the 90s, and it immediately went down. So advertising bans, they work. If you allow advertising freely, you will increase consumption of the goods being sold. So in order to solve the fossil overconsumption. The overconsumption of fossil fuel services, we need to reduce the advertising for them. It's just how it works. Now, people argue against Greenpeace and against me and against the coalition of organizations that are having this demand that, but why are you against advertising? Advertising can be a really, really good asset to, help innovation. We can advertise the solutions. Yeah, agree. The only thing is that then you have to tell the truth with advertising. And advertising is, and I cannot stress this enough, I believe, Greenpeace believe, we believe that advertising is a valuable part of a free society when it's not abused. And it should be guided by the principle, truth well told. I believe this is the best kind of advertising. It is when it is the truth and it's well told. And that is also legally what advertising should be. Advertising is not freedom of speech. That is a misconception. Advertising is a part of freedom of trade. Freedom of speech is what I do now when I'm saying that I believe that the oil majors, that I can say that Shell, Preem, Total, I think they're criminals. I think they're the scum of the earth. That is freedom of speech, and it's also my opinion. But if I were to write that in advertising, that would be against the law, because I don't have. It's not like I can back it up with data. Well, I can, but it's like you get the point, right? You need to have another, because it's freedom of trade in advertising. It's not like an opinion piece. The problem, however, is that we are allowing advertising to be very little truth and a lot of well told. And we allow the oil majors to say such things as zero waste. Really? There are no product from Shell that has zero waste. Absolutely no. But we allow them to say so. I can, for example, take this case. It's Preem. It's a company that is the biggest oil company in the north, in Sweden. They can say things such as vi leder omvandlingen mot ett hållbart samhälle. So we're at the forefront of a sustainable society. Tanka Preem Evolution för att vara med och bidra. If you buy our diesel, you are contributing to a better sustainable society. That is what they say. This is what they think is the truth well told. All right, let's look at the truth component in this. So Preem's production has 98% fossils. They have less than 2% renewables. The renewables that they make a certain diesel, which is a tiny, tiny, tiny part of their production, in turn consists of wrapper oil, which is something that could be used for food instead, those areas making wrapper. It's pine oil, which comes from cut down rainforest. It's slaughterhouse waste. I don't need to tell you why slaughterhouse waste is a problem, do I? Is it a problem that we have a lot of livestock and increasing profit for the meat consumption? Is that a problem? Yes, I think so. And then it's palm oil. Sorry, pine oil is the forest. Sorry, I confused the two. Pine oil is the forest in Sweden. Palm oil comes from the forest in Brazil, Indonesia. And then you have a little bit of sugar and wheat, etc. This is the reality. This was the reality 10 years ago when Preem put out their first advertising campaign about sustainability. In 10 years, this has not changed. So it's 10 years of invoices from Forsman and Bodenfors. It's 10 years of invoices from Åkestam and Holst. It's 10 years of invoices from TV production and advertising people. And it's 10 years of massive profits on something that is totally unsustainable, but presented like this. A beautiful forest that they could cut down, that's the truth. And then we are in the forefront of a sustainable society. You can contribute by buying our diesel, by buying slaughterhouse waste. So the truth is that this is what Preem is refining. This is what Preem is refining. This is what Preem refining. Russian oil is coming in. Russian crude oil, and they just stopped that. Yeah. And then they have a little bit of this, and a little bit of this, which is forestry. Let's see all the time where we are. Oh, I talk too much, as always. And then they present it like this. And the forest industry do like this. So that's why I think you should go on Cannes. And I know that you need to run because it's around 9, but I will tell you a last story, if it's okay. Just if some of you need to run to your meetings or so to, cancel your work for Preem or so, you can go. But in 2007, I saw the inconvenient truth. At that time, I worked for Scandinavian Airlines. I went to Scandinavian Airlines and said, hey, we can make a lot of money if we're the first airliner to really reduce CO2. And we're not going to do it with biofuels, we're going to do it with trains. So we did a business case. Some of you were with me who did it, and we presented it for Scandinavian Airlines. What if Scandinavian Airlines would operate a train between Gothenburg and Stockholm? So people would take the train and then go out to New York, where it's not easy to go by train. That would drastically reduce CO2. And we actually managed to launch that because Scandinavian Airlines liked that idea. So we launched the AirTrain with loyalty cards, with integrated digital solutions, with a great advertising campaign, which we, by the way, got a Silver Lion for. 1.5 years later, Scandinavian Airlines had some economic problems, so they canceled the whole project. That was, is it 2022? It's more than 15 years ago. Imagine the stock value of Scandinavian Airlines if they were more like MTR, operating an integrated solution with air travel and train. Instead, they came back to us and said, so the AirTrain project is canceled. You now need to sell the route Stockholm-Göteborg. So we did these ads. You also need to increase airline travel. So please make Valentine's Day into a travel holiday instead of a day when you go out for a dinner with your partner. That's the kind of brief you get as an advertiser. Increase the market, change the culture so people combust more fossil fuels. That's how we want to survive. And this is how Scandinavian Airlines looks today. It's greenwashing. It's people going around looking for the last bit of snow. Yeah, it's so, you don't know, are we going to laugh or are we going to cry? It's go to the Arctic and see the ice melts, 2 for 1. This is what your tax money is going to. 20 billion Swedish kronors is what you have paid for this. So today, instead of making advertising for Scandinavian Airlines, I'm part of a team that takes down their ads, and then we make fake events for Scandinavian Airlines. This is what we did in Brunnsparken a few months ago. See the Arctic ice before it's gone. And we had people compete for airliners to the Arctic, just to make a spoof on that you can see the polar bears before they die. And today I'm a part of a team that is climbing the big billboards, putting up no fossil fuel, thank you. And I'm just as happy as ever. So if you sell your talent and time to fossil advertisers, you are fueling the wars, you're fueling the climate crisis. So ban fossil fuel ads, work for it, do it for the fun. You might end up on a beach in Cannes dressed as a dog. Thank you very much.